Hello and welcome to Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast where we talk about all of the things that I love, some of the things that I hate, and this wacky adventure that we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I'm glad you're here today for part 2 of a discussion with John Philip Sousa impersonator and enthusiast Rod Miller, and football flops. Let's get started. Welcome back to today's program, beginning our 5th run of episodes with this episode. We've nestled ourselves into this 12 weeks on and 1 week off as a little break, mental, physical, etc., which seems to be a nice groove for us. It took us a while to get into that groove, but we're there now. So over this next 12 weeks of episodes, we have some fun, exciting stuff, a ton of Star Wars. We're going to go back to the basics with sort of Star Wars 101. We've got top 10 droids coming up. Plus, we continue our journey through the Clone Wars with Mortis, a Captain Tarkin sighting, Umbara, Vagarian slavers, and undercover Obi-Wan. Plus, lots of DCI. The season is heating up. We are less than 1 month from Championship Week, so we're going to include some Championship Week previews, plus DCI 101 for beginners in case you're just starting that journey with us. Plus, we have interviews, we have top 10s, rants, and yes, something neat with Matt coming your way along the whole 12-week run. Plus, our 50th episode is next week, and our 1-year Sid-iversary in 2 weeks. So lots of great stuff coming up. Super excited to get going. Before we get going on today's episode, need to give you a Fantasy DCI League update. As you know, we're running a Fantasy DCI League with some of our Symbols and Cynicism regulars. So here's our first week rankings that were just released a few days ago. Matt's Marvelous Marchers lead so far in both brass and visual. Now, you go back a couple episodes, I kind of picked on Matt a little bit with some of his picks early season, looking pretty good in brass and visual. The Night Sisters, that's Kathy's corps, lead in percussion. The Blue Somethings, Harrison's corps, have the small edge in guard, and the early GE goes to Crimson Dawn. Our third place bronze medal corps at the moment is Crimson Dawn. Silver medal goes to Cynical Regiment. And the Blue Somethings have the early gold medal inside track. Now, there are only 2.4 points separating first from sixth. With an entire month to go in the season, there's plenty of room for jostling. It's anyone's league. We are giving weekly updates on social medias that will give the most updated information. We are on Facebook and TikTok at Symbols and Cynicism, as well as YouTube at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music. Speaking of YouTube, new to our YouTube channel while we were gone for last week is some video podcasts that Harrison and I have put together. So check those out. If you're already listening to this on YouTube, you know where we are. If not, if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or some other platform, the videos will not be on this platform. You got to go over to YouTube, Robert H. Sloan RHS Music, like and subscribe there so that you don't miss any updates of our upcoming videos. Also on YouTube and TikTok. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been on a marathon training journey. If you're a long-time listener to this podcast, can we say long time when it's only been a year? Anyway, you might remember that early on, we used to talk occasionally about running. We did some interviews. I gave some running updates and weekly mileage, and we dropped that topic, but it doesn't mean I've dropped training. We've talked about it a little with half marathon, etc. Well, I've decided to run a marathon this fall. I'll be doing the Columbus Nationwide Children's Hospital Marathon on October 18th. That's going to be I'm going to do the full version. They do a half and a full simultaneously. I'm going for the full 26.2. I am chronicling my training journey via TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So if you're interested in that journey, some of which is success, some of which is failure, because that's how this goes, check in on those and subscribe there as well. On today's show, part 2 of my recent conversation with John Philip Sousa enthusiast and impersonator Rod Miller. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen to that one first. We're going to pick up right where we left off last week. And football flops? Let's roll. Bring in part 2 of Rod Miller. So when you go to do the impersonations to guest conduct, do you set the programs? Does the house conductor set that? Is it a combination of the two?
So I work collaboratively with the directors of the band. I lay out the structure of what a true Sousa concert should be, and sometimes I'll get conductors saying, "Hey, I really want to play this," and I'm like, doesn't quite fit this concert. Let's look at this next, let's do this next year or something like that. Because I think it's just not programming it in the way that Sousa programmed. I think there has to be a musical journey that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me a long time for me to finally say, okay, but this sounds really conceited and I don't mean it to be that, but God's given me a talent for programming.
Mm-hmm.
He's given me a gift. And I have to utilize that gift. But a lot of what I've learned also came from obviously from Vince Polsey, Leonard B. Smith, Paul Byerly, to understand. And Sousa, his audiences, we're just so ingrained in what was going on. Hey, let's face it, Bob. Okay, and the best thing that we can do as musicians is that when somebody comes in to listen to us or whatever it is, that we take them away from life for a little while, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They walk in, they forget about the outside world and all the junk that's going on, and they come in and say, man, that was awesome. And they forgot about life for a little while.
Yep.
And I think that the people that attended the Sousa concerts, Sousa played close to 16,000 concerts in his lifetime, sometimes 3 concerts a day. He helped people forget about life for a while.
Well, I think you mentioned Vince Polsey, early mentor of mine when I first started teaching. I taught just 20 minutes from Defiance at my first 4 years.
Right.
And man, I was always at Vince Polsey's doorstep, like help. Or,
Yep.
or in his office at home, his wife was like, Bob again, but I think one of the things he told me was, your rehearsals with your students should be similar. Like they should leave all their problems at the door, and rehearsal is a cocoon. And then that problem is still going to be there on the way out the door if they want to pick it up on the way out the door,
Hey, let's face it. Our rehearsal spaces need to be safe places for our not only our students, for the people that are coming there.
Absolutely.
A safe place, meaning that it's a place that they can come, they can express themselves, they can do some things that they love to do,
yep.
And that everybody is there we're all on the same page.
I remember I had a graduate.
And that cocoon, as you said, it isolates us from the outside world.
I remember had a student, probably, 4 or 5 years ago, graduated, and I went to her graduation party, and she said, thanks for letting me be weird. And I don't know that she meant it as a compliment necessarily, like the way I took it, but like that meant a lot to me. It meant that there was a place where she could be herself. I was like,
correct.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We're off track here. That's all right. Back to Sousa though. So when programming, what are some things that you program or don't program that make it truly a Sousa style concert?
I think you have to have a good opener that grabs people's attention. Obviously a lot of bands cannot play the Von Supes or the Festive Overture or Carnival, whatever it may be. You got to have an opener that sets the tone for the concert. I think you need to have a good soloist. Sousa had instrumental soloists, trumpet, trombone, euphonium, whatever it might be. He always had a vocal soloist. He would have violin soloist. Most of the concerts I had, I would either have one soloist or I would have 2. So an instrumental soloist, trombone, trumpet, saxophone, whatever, flute, whatever it might be, tuba, euphonium. I mean, I've had them all. And then maybe a vocalist as well. But maybe, so here's an example. To try to bring people back around to where we were, instead of singing some big aria, okay, for the a soprano feature,
Right.
and then coming back in the encore for the vocal soloist and doing Musetta's waltz or something. Okay, maybe we might do Gershwin. Maybe we'll do some Carmichael, whatever it may be.
Right.
You know, someone to watch over me, maybe something like that, because it brings back like, oh, I know that. Maybe they don't know El Baccio, or maybe they don't know this big opera aria or whatever, but they know, oh, wait, I know that. That's Gershwin. Okay, that's cool. So I try not to confuse the mind too much. I got to have some familiarity. I always play this, the Armed Forces medley, something that Sousa did not do.
Right.
Didn't mean he had a great fondness for it, but let's face it, in that point in time, a lot of the military groups weren't around, but you didn't see that. So, we work with the conductor. We program this thing out. We try to get a soloist in there. I try to have a nice finale. Maybe that finale might be, 1812 Overture. Maybe the finale is, America the Beautiful, whatever it is. Of course, then right after that encore is always Stars and Stripes. You end it with Sousa's favorite march of the Stars and Stripes Forever. Maybe we might have a short vocal encore at the end of that, or part of a march, maybe the last strain of a march to kind of put a little exclamation point on the audience. So, we just work through it. But while the format is the same, I find that every now and then the format kind of ripples a little bit, just to make sure that the concert makes great sense and takes the audience on some sort of a great historic musical journey.
Did Sousa have a favorite march of his or somebody else's, or did he just play Sousa marches? Like, what would his march programming be like?
Well, he would try to do something that he recently premiered. He loves Stars and Stripes. I mean, people would ask him, hey, what's the last march you ever want to conduct? And he would say the Stars and Stripes Forever. But he considered the Stars and Stripes Forever to be his Christmas gift. It was finished on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
His Christmas gift to the world. He loved Stars and Stripes. Mrs. Sousa loved the Thunderer. That was her favorite march. Was the Thunderer. But there were some marches that obviously that were very popular with people that Sousa enjoyed doing. I mean, Washington Post. He loved playing Semper Fidelis because it was for the Corps.
Yeah.
Who's Who in Navy Blue because of his ties into the military. But he did a lot of different stuff. So I think it's safe to say the Stars and Stripes were probably at the top of the list for Sousa. Was
there any that he had to play because everybody loved him, but he hated? Do you know what I mean? Like, oh God, we got to play this again.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And of course, he played his musicians very, very well. So, it's like you got a great gig, and the last thing you're going to do is complain about it, right?
Right, so, yeah, right, exactly.
So, I've never really read. I mean, I've seen some complaints from band members about other things, but I've never seen anything from that standpoint.
Okay.
Of course, the horn players are just like, oh my gosh, it's kind of funny. A lot of times I get around horn players, and the first thing they do is they look at me and they go, if I'm dressed as Sousa, okay, like last year I'm in the booth, one of the horn players comes up for the president. So she says, Mr. Sousa, can I ask a question? Oh, so of course. She says, do you hate us? And I knew she's a horn player.
Right.
I said, no, I do not hate you. She goes, why? And that's always the thing, they're like, throw out a klaxon or something like that where I can have some melody every now and then.
Well, what do you tell a horn? I mean, certainly in my career, I heard that a million times too. Oh God, a march, always the horn player. Right? So what do you tell? I know what I told horn players. What would you or Sousa tell a horn player?
Suck it up, Buttercup. Here we go. No, I'm just. No, I don't. No, I don't tell them that. But I'm just like, well, you know what? I tell you what. Let's get through this concert and we'll talk about it. You know what? I'm going to look at me. you're not going to talk about it. And I said, no, because we're not,
I used to always tell French horn, jokingly, of course, but I used to tell French horn players when they complained about that, well, you could stand in the back and count rest with the percussionists if you want.
Right.
And load the timpani.
You can sit back here with a triangle in your hand. Yeah.
And load the timpani after the concert. That'd shut them up pretty quick. But so what about you, either as Rod Miller or as Sousa? What are some of your favorite Sousa pieces to play?
Nobles of the Mystic Shrine is my absolute favorite Sousa march. Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, period. Love it. It's got a very Middle Eastern feel. He wrote it for Shriners International, the Shrine.
Yeah.
Sousa was a Shriner. He wrote 3 marches for Freemasonry, the Crusader, and the Thunderer. But Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, my favorite. Jack Tar is one of my favorites. Obviously, a very heavy. It has a bosun's whistle and it has a ship's bell in it. So that's his nod of the cap also to the Navy.
Yeah. Stars
and Stripes, U.S. Field Artillery. I do love Who's Who in Navy Blue. I just really love it. We just did Washington Post at St. Mary's, and half of the march I love, and the other half I'm like, okay, milk toast.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like that about that. But like I said, Who's Who in Navy Blue, Fairest of the Fair, Hands Across the Sea. So, I mean, those are some of my favorites. I do love El Capitan. I think El Capitan, as it was written, is one of the more accessible Sousa marches. Oh, here's another one of my favorite. The Belle of Chicago. Belle, Belle.
Right.
Love it. And when he did it, he was criticized for writing a march to honor women.
Right.
And Sousa blasted back in the media, basically saying, I'll write who forever I want to, and you're a bunch of heathens for telling me blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was great. But the Belle of Chicago was played by the president's own when Michelle Obama came out during his first presidency.
Oh, cool.
Because of them being from Chicago, and they played the Belle of Chicago. So the Belle of Chicago is absolutely one of my absolute favorites.
You have a least favorite?
4 for me.
You don't have to say that, but you have a least favorite?
I'm not a fan of Liberty Loan. I just, Boy Scouts of America, I'm a council member for Erie Shores Council for Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
But Boy Scouts of America is not one of my, big, there's some others that I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. And Liberty Loan's okay. Boy Scouts of America, okay. Some others.
Yeah.
But I just don't program them. I still listen to them. The Marine Band recordings. And here's the thing: everybody can listen to all the Sousa marches except for 7. Well, you can hear them. You can't get the music off the Marine Band website.
Right.
But there is a new one that has not been recorded that that they have found. And I don't really know the whole story, but I think it's called The Lion Tamer.
Okay.
And that would be number 127 right there, but that's not recorded. But so any of the music that's not in public domain, you cannot get the music off of the website of the Marine Band, but everything else is there. And of course, Jason Fettig and Ryan Nowlin spent countless hours with the president's own recording all the Sousa marches, which is a tremendous, tremendous treasure trove I think for everybody.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Well, the Marine Band, all the military bands, but I mean, the national treasure, right? I mean, what a legacy that all of the military bands are, and Marine Band, obviously the foremost of that. So I looked this up. I want to get your thoughts on some Sousa myths that I found. Found these on the internet, some that I had heard of already, and some were new to me. So I want to get your thoughts on these. First one here, Sousa, his last name, S-O-U-S-A, is an acronym for S-O, which was his real name, Sam Ogden, and then USA, United States of America. So he kind of took his first initial, last initial, added on USA, and got Sousa for a last name. True or false?
Absolutely 1,000% false. Matter of fact, it's kind of interesting. SOUSA, some people say means salesman of United States of America, because when anybody asked me what his occupation was, he would say salesman of America. So some people think that Sousa was salesman of United States of America. It's absolutely 1,000% false.
Right.
His name is John Philip Sousa. His dad was of Portuguese descent.
Okay. The next one I had, we've already touched on it, but he was obviously known his time in the Marine Band. He also was Navy Band later. We know that's true because we've already discussed it. How about Sousaphone was invented by John Philip Sousa?
False. The Sousaphone was invented by the J.W. Pepper Company, later then put into its current configuration with bell front by Kahn. Sousa only lent his name to it and did it with much reluctance. He didn't want to call it to Sousa. So he hated the sound of the helicon. He wanted something different. So he went. So the J.W. Pepper started working on it. The first Sousa, quote, Sousaphone, had the bell up, and they called them rain catchers. And he's like, no, let's put the bell forward. And so then Kahn changed it to its current configuration that we know today.
Next one. When Sousa sold his own composition marches, he changed the arrangements from what his own band would play, sometimes including wrong notes, changing the octaves, etc., so that no other band could sound, quote, like the Sousa Band.
Yes and no. So I know that many of the recordings that Sousa did, for lack of a better term, he threw the recording, because Sousa did not want to be duplicated. He spoke twice to Congress about the ills of the recording industry. He did not want to have his music duplicated. I mean, I've heard some of the original recordings. You're like, some of the accents are kind of there, some of them they aren't. The other thing is that Sousa often changed octaves and omitted instruments and certain strains and stuff like that, depending if he was inside or outside, or just to make some stuff different. So obviously he had to do something when he put the music into form. Now, obviously, then you get, the publishing companies that are saying, well, we need to put something down. And so they would transcribe some of that stuff. So like the John Church Company did a lot of his publications. And so they had to put something, of course, it was transferred over oftentimes to piano and stuff like that. So I don't think, though, he put and I've got some of those original John Church things, and the accents are not there. A lot of the only way that we really know how Sousa wanted his marches to be played is we started to find the encore books from past members. Paul Byerly was a big part of that in finding all these encore books of the marches, and they would write in what the articulations were supposed to be. And so Laura Schitzel, Keith Bryan, Paul Byerly, they would all collaborate. And that's how we have the markings that we have today.
Well, because the composition, duplication, and publication of music 100 years ago was not what it is today.
No,
right?
Absolutely not.
And some of that was just his musicians knew how he wanted it, like tribal knowledge. Like, I know there should be an accent here. And so he probably didn't notate everything exactly how he wanted it because they just knew how to do it, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Okay. I'd love to travel back to 1905.
Yeah.
And travel with the band for a month. I mean, guys, oh my gosh, I would go crazy. Yeah.
I want to go right with you. Okay. Last myth here. The bass drummer was the highest paid musician in the Sousa Band.
True. Gus Helmke was the highest paid musician in the Sousa Band. And Sousa often said he was the best musician that he had. And Gus Helmke played the bass drum and the cymbals at the same time. And Gus was the top musician in the band because he knew right where things should be to be accented and how Sousa wanted it to be done. But that is true. Gus Helmke was the highest paid member of the Sousa Band.
Every time I go and I clinic a high school band, like before a large group contest or something, and they start the march, invariably the cymbal player sets up like 45 feet from the bass drummer. And I'm like,
I've never understood that.
Why are you all the way, like, either go to the hallway or stand next to the bass drummer? And they look at me like I have lobsters hanging from my ears. I'm like,
Right. That snare drum, bass drum, and cymbal needs to be like a pyramid. It needs to be the triangle. What's in a pyramid? Lots of treasure.
Yeah.
If you put those three together, your money.
Well, and the bass drummer and the cymbal player often were the same, like you just said. So, what are some other facts about Sousa that most people would not know, but are interesting nuggets?
He was an avid cigar smoker. Matter of fact, they have the cigar that was in his pocket the night he died in the Lincoln Hotel in Reading, Pennsylvania, in that night when he died. And I just keep thinking, who says, let's rifle through his pockets and see what he's got. Oh, here's a cigar. Let's keep this.
Yeah, we should keep that one.
Yeah, and it's one of my most prized pictures that I have that I've taken. When I've been there to do that. There's some interesting stuff about Sousa's death. Speaking about he hadn't been feeling well for about 3-4 days. Goes to Reading, Pennsylvania to conduct the Ringgold Band. The 3 days leading up to there, he kept asking people, "Do you believe in life after death? Do you believe in what do you think about death?" And they said it was really kind of weird. He hadn't been feeling real well. They thought, okay, whatever. So when they would ask him, "What's the last march you ever want to conduct?" Like I said, he'd say "Stars and Stripes Forever."
Yeah.
So that night, he conducts the Ringgold Band, has a dinner. He conducts in a bit of a rehearsal, whatever, has dinner, goes up to his room, and later, early in the morning, dies, right? So the last piece he ever conducted was Stars and Stripes. People would ask him, "When are you going to retire?" He said, "When you hear of Sousa retired, you will hear of Sousa dead." So he conducted right up to within hours of when he died.
Wow.
Kind of, that kind of stuff. It's almost like he had this premonition. And what was interesting, even farther than that, as he's walking off the stage, a xylophone player asked him, "Mr. Sousa, can I have your baton?" And Sousa says, "Sure, I'm not going to need it anymore," and hands it to the guy.
Oh, wow.
And that baton finally came back to the Marine Band. It ended up in Florida. And Birch Browning, the director of bands at Cleveland State, knows the family that baton came from, a long line of band directors in Florida. And that finally made its way back. Here's something else interesting about Sousa belongings and stuff, that upon his death, this is kind of a weird thing, and a lot of people don't know this. Upon his death, his family, his 2 daughters and son, burned most of his possessions.
Wow.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, we're wondering, where did that Marine Corps coat go? Where did certain things go?
Yeah.
The only thing we can think of is that they knew how much he did not want to be duplicated. He wasn't real happy with the Marine Corps when he left the Marine Corps. He was, like I said, he was there for 12 years. He wanted a rank. They wouldn't give him one.
Yeah.
I mean, so, of course, he was buried in his Navy uniform.
Huh.
And that didn't make the Marine Corps real happy either. But the only statue of Sousa is at Sousa Hall, which is just like a block and a half away from 8th and I, the Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C. And that's the only statue of Sousa where he is at.
Wow, it's like a soap opera. Like, as the Sousa turns, like, where's the code? And interesting stuff. So you mentioned the old movie not being a great, accurate anyway depiction of his life. Where can somebody go if they want to learn more? Are there good movies? What are some books about him, his life, the marches? What are some resources that people can go find?
Well, obviously, I think first and foremost, you're looking up stuff that Paul Byerly wrote. I mean, there's books out there that Byerly wrote. There is an autobiography that Sousa wrote that you can get. Keith Bryan has some nice things that are out there as well. And there's other people, Paul Warfield. There's a few others that have some nice books and stuff like that. But Paul Warfield, great guy, basically the director of School of Music at the University of Minnesota. And Paul does, Patrick does a lot of stuff. But obviously Keith Bryan did a lot of things. But Paul Byerly is still the definitive expert on Sousa and what he did. So yeah, there's some great stuff out there. And actually, the Marine Band website has a lot of really cool stuff on it about Sousa that's on there as well. But just like anything else on the internet, you got to be careful
Well, right.
what you're reading.
Well,
you
right.
know, where all of a sudden you read that, Sousa was abducted by aliens in 1904 and whatever.
Or that his name is Sam Ogden, USA.
That's right. Sam Ogden, USA. I think I'm going to start signing my checks like that.
There you go. If I read it on the internet, it must be true, right?
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. And I have Ocean View Land in Kansas to sell you.
There you go. So I know recently you've done some appearances. Any upcoming appearances or cool Sousa things going on that people might want to be aware of?
Yeah. So I'm down at Ohio University doing something with their community university band at Ohio University, and then they mix in some community band members and stuff like that. That's on July the 2nd. I was invited to go to Washington, D.C. for the 4th, and I turned it down. I'm not sure. It would have been tough. It would have been tough to get there after OU and stuff like that. And I've been doing the OU concert now for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And then August the 2nd, I will be conducting a Sousa concert with the Hagerstown Municipal Band, one of the oldest municipal bands in the United States. Hagerstown is just about an hour or so outside of Washington, D.C. A lot of the people in the Hagerstown Band are retired members of military bands in D.C. I mean, they play lights out. They're amazing. They're on August the 2nd. I'm doing some Sousa lectures in Toledo and some other places as well. But that kind of fills up my summer just because I do so many other things. But there is, you and I talked about this. Is this when you want me to do this, Bob?
You go for it. I want to be the second person to break the news because it'll be announced by the time this episode comes out. But
yeah, so it's kind of interesting. 2 years ago, I received a call from the Valentine Theater in Toledo, Ohio. And Sousa played there 9 times in his lifetime. Very famous theater in Toledo. It's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And they said, listen, we want to do a Sousa Returns to the Valentine. We've heard about what you do, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that's great. Problem is, I've always had other bands. I don't have. So they said, well, why don't you put a band together?
Sure.
So
yeah, just go do that, Rod.
Sure. Just snap your fingers and a band appears.
Yeah.
So after talking with, friends and close colleagues and stuff like that, and people are like, Rod, you really need to start your own Sousa band. I mean, you're the guy out here doing this and blah, blah, blah. And so finally I said, okay. So I have actually founded, this came out of something else I'll get to, but I have actually founded my own professional Sousa band now. It's called the Stars, Stripes, and Sousa Band. And our inaugural performance will be April the 11th at 2 p.m. at the Valentine Theater in downtown Toledo. And Bowling Green State University is heavily involved in this concert. A lot of the faculty from BGSU is playing, some retired members of the President's Own, a lot of faculty from other major colleges, people from the Toledo Symphony. We have Columbus Symphony, Fireland Symphony, Ashland Symphony, Lima Symphony. So we have people coming so far from, I think it's 4 or 5 different states to play in this concert. And so I've established my own professional Sousa band, and I am beyond excited. But this is all part of, my wife and I have established an educational foundation, and we're doing this so that it's a nonprofit organization. And we did it as an educational foundation so that we can establish scholarship funds for music education students. We want to give back to music education what it has given to me over the years. And obviously the Sousa thing, again, gives me a vehicle to help out students that want to go on in music education. We are flat out excited. Right now, there's 21 tunes on the concert, Festive Overture, the Mazeppa finale, of course, the Sousa marches. And the Sousa march that we're playing are marches that he did at the Valentine, because I've got all the programs and notes and whatever. We do have a trumpet soloist. Thaddeus Archer from the Toledo Symphony is playing that. His wife, Carol Dustieker, Also sings with the Toledo Symphony. She's also the vocal professor at Heidelberg University. Thaddeus is the trumpet professor at Heidelberg. And she's going to be singing with us. And then Merwin Sue is a violinist, first chair, second violin in the Toledo Symphony, and he'll be playing on the Sousa concert as well. We're excited, flat out excited.
And this is good. This is not a one-time shot, right? This is going to be like an ongoing kind of regular performing band, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. And that's the hope. And like I said, this is not a money-making thing for Kathy and I. It's so that the money that we are raising from this through the ticket sales and stuff like that. Like we have corporate sponsors that are helping out with the whole thing.
Sure.
But the money that we have is going into the foundation. And the reason we did the LLC as a foundation, you have to give money back.
Yep.
And that's what we want to do. We want to help out music education students. Like I said, we want to give back. So again, it's a vehicle.
So do you have a website or a social media account that people can go to find out more about the band, upcoming performances, or to donate to your foundation? Is there anything?
Yeah. So that's all the stuff that we're in the process of doing right now. It's kind of interesting. It's a new venture like this. We're putting a great team together. I have a board of advisors. I have a business manager. We have some of our corporate sponsors that are helping with some different things. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, but we did want to get it out that we're doing this. And we want to make sure that, the website and the social media and stuff, everything that we're going to be doing are spot on the money. And that we're not going back in and saying, well, let's change this. Oh, right. Now let's change this. So we're kind of holding off a little bit and kind of sitting on it a little bit. So hopefully sometime here this fall, everything will be up and rolling. And then keep your eyes out on social media and kind of go from there. But we're flat out. I mean, a lot of people that are playing the concert have their master's or their doctorate in performance on their instruments. So.
I think in a nutshell, we started off, well, where did this all start? Well, I was at Ohio State and I met Keith Bryan, and how could you have known in that it was going to lead you to start a foundation to help music education, right? Like music, we've told our kids, I know you've told your kids, I've told my kids time, and you never know where music's going to take you. And maybe it's the Rose Bowl and maybe it's Macy's, but maybe it is to put yourself in a position to be able to give back for tons of kids over the next, who knows, whatever years, So I'm proud of you, man. This is awesome. I'm excited for you. Let me know if I can be involved in any way with, social media promotion, video stuff. Like, I'm willing to help you out because I think this all sounds fantastic. I should not be your bass drummer. I'm sure you have much better players than me on bass drum. But if you need somebody to polish like the triangle, I might be able to polish.
Oh, there you go.
Some triangles.
Yeah, everybody needs a good polished triangle. Well, it's a must.
It's the way Sousa would want it.
Is this the cynicism part of the podcast?
A little bit, maybe a little bit. Hey, Rod, I know you're incredibly busy. You got 15 jobs. You failed retirement, as a friend of mine says. But thank you for spending time with us today. This is going to go up probably 2 episodes coming up here in July, right around the 4th, because Sousa and synonymous with, this time of season. So it was perfect timing for us. Good luck with the rest of your summer, all your performances, and especially the foundation, the Sousa Band, and all of that. Just awesome stuff. Thanks for being on the show.
Bob, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And, let's keep Sousa alive out there. And I'll just throw this out there. If anybody has questions about Sousa or whatever, reach out. I'm on Facebook, and it's hard to miss me because I'm the guy that looks like John Philip Sousa in the profile. Be more than happy to talk about Sousa, help somebody organize their own Sousa concert, whatever it might be. But I hopefully the mission that we're on is good. Hopefully it's noble. And hopefully it'll be appreciated at some point. Who knows what's going to happen down the road when I'm dead and gone? Maybe something is still brewing here. So that's what we're looking for.
Well, I'm going to be the one to rifle through your pockets and find the cigar.
There you go. I appreciate that.
And fair warning, you look like Sousa, but sometimes you look like Santa. So you got to be careful. When you're listening to this.
In December, I don't wear red and go to Walmart. because I literally have created scenes in Walmart and Kroger's and different places. They're like, oh no,
Yeah.
no, I'm wearing blue and yellow and
Ski
no.
mask and glasses.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
hey, give my best to Kathy and the kids, and we'll talk to you another time.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bob.
That's it. No, breathe on your happy place.
Football flopping. And to be clear, I'm talking about what us Americans call soccer, but the rest of the world calls it football. I love the World Cup. I love it. And we only get it once every 4 years, so you got to really love it once it's here. I watch the USA matches, but I'll watch two nations I don't even know where they are play. Like, I love it. It's great. My favorite thing about the World Cup is the visible proof that maybe the world would all get along better if it wasn't for the politicians constantly getting involved. My second favorite thing is the drama of the matches. When it's still 0-0 or 1-1, you're coming up to the end of the, are we getting extra time? Is there penalty kicks? I love the drama of the event. My least favorite thing is the flopping. Look, it would hurt a lot to run full force into another individual who is also running full force at you. It would hurt a lot to have cleats scrape the inside of your calf as someone tackles for the ball. How do they do that header? Like, how does that not hurt? That ball traveled 50 yards or more from the goalie and you hit it with your head in the opposite direction. How does that not hurt? I'm not talking about collisions. Not saying they don't hurt. What I'm saying is the pretend pain when a lack of collision has occurred. It's ridiculous to see a grown human barely be touched and then roll around on the ground as if his life were ending. Then peek to see if anyone is noticing his antics. If someone has noticed his antics, then the antics continue. If not, he gets up and reinserts himself into the action. It's like a toddler. Anybody with a baby or a toddler, when they fall and hit their head or fall on the ground, they kind of look at you as the parent like, should I be hurt? And if you tend to react with, hey, you're fine, and pick them up, the life is good. If you act scared, they now know that should have hurt me, and I start to react for crying. That's like football. These guys fall. Are you going to give a card? Are you going to give me a foul? Nope. Okay, then I'm up. New proposed rule. If you roll around on the ground with an injury, then you must leave the field for an equal amount of time to the amount of time that you rolled around in pain. 30 seconds, a minute, you got to leave for 30 seconds or a minute. And while we're at it, let's add a new rule that a red card ejection for a dangerous play only lasts as long. The ejection only lasts as long as the player is off the pitch as well who has been injured. So you get a red card, that player doesn't leave the pitch, you don't have to leave. Because the red card ejection followed by an injured player spending exactly 0 seconds being injured is also equally ridiculous. Look, kudos to these fine athletes for all of their achievements. Kudos to their extraordinarily abilities handling the football, the stamina required without hardly any breaks to play an entire game of football. But come on, man. Stop with the toddler, does anyone notice I'm hurt routine. Grow up. I feel better. You feel better? Hey, Sid, when's the game on today? Homework for the week. Band camp is coming. Now, if you're a band director, is a great time to start prepping, especially if your band camp is still 3 weeks, 2, maybe it's not even until August and you're 4 weeks away. And I don't mean prepping the music, making copies, or lining the field. I don't mean that. And I don't mean selecting your show and writing your drill. Those are all pretty obvious things. I mean mental prep. I mean what needs to change from last year to make this year more successful. And successful is how you define it. I am not imposing success and a definition of success on you. I want you to remember back. Remember last October, I suggested that you come up right then with a list of things that could change for the coming year to make it more successful. If you have that list, now is a great time to reference that list. Actually, honestly, 4 months ago would have been a great time, but now is a great time as well. If you didn't make that list, shame on you. Try to remember, what are those things that after rehearsal or right before rehearsal, you said to another staff member or a field commander or student leaders, next year we should ... It seemed like a good idea then. It could seem like a good idea right now. Maybe it was changing the way you're doing playing checks. Maybe you're changing the warm-up routine, whether it's physical or musical. Maybe it's simple, like have a box of extra music or a location for music and coordinate sheets so kids aren't asking you right before rehearsal. Now is the time to make that commitment to 10% more basics every single day. That's your homework. If you're not a band director, then your homework is to start driving around your town, any town you live or work in, and listening. Do you hear a gok block? Do you hear a metronome? Do you hear drums? Do you hear any clues that a band is rehearsing nearby? Good. Find that band. Go find it. Go check out a little bit of rehearsal. Sit at a distance and watch for a while. Maybe it's 5 minutes because you don't have much time. Maybe it's an hour because you have some time to kill. Appreciate their work in the weather. Is it hot? Are they on blacktop? Are they on turf? Reminder, turf is usually warmer than blacktop. Sure, it's probably boring right now, especially if it's July or early August, because it's early season. They're doing a lot of basics. They're doing a lot of marching basics. They're doing a lot of lip slurs for 2 hours a day, but appreciate that too. No great marching band gets great without basics. Maybe those lip slurs aren't even in tune. Maybe those marching basics aren't in step. If it's a marching band that you'll see in the fall, now's a great time to notice how bad they are so that when you see them in September, you notice the point A to point M improvement. Look, you don't have to say anything at this rehearsal or don't even applaud. Just appreciate it. If they happen to play some music and you enjoy it, go ahead and clap if you want. It might be a little weird, but they'll probably appreciate it anyway. Mostly, just enjoy their hard work and enjoy their early season journey. Okay, that's the show. Make sure to leave a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app of your choice. You can text the show with a link at the bottom of the description. You can check out our merch store at themarchingarts.com/RHS and our YouTube channel at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music. I hope you'll join us next week for Star Wars Back to the Basics 101 and cell phone game nonsense. Thanks for joining me today. The theme music is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. The show logo is designed by John Suh, and our producer, as always, is my sister, Kathy. I hope you'll join us next time for more reflections and rantings on symbols and cynicism.